Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another weekly installment of the Mod Zoo Hangout, semi-weekly, whenever we can get to it. Uh, Today we're going to be discussing the future tools of modding from the home, different new manufacturing, or what was always looked at as heavy manufacturing equipment that's starting to come down in price, become a lot more easy to use within the home or garage or basement, however else you want to have it set up. So to get us into this, let's go over to Bill.
Hey, everybody. So this is a topic that I love because it's all about DIY and the next level of DIY that's much more affordable. The idea of having a laser machine in your home or your garage is actually feasible now. We've got some guys here from the Modzu community that either have 3D printer equipment or a laser machine or one that they're ordered or one that they're currently building. And we're going to get into all the details of what it's like to find something like this and what's involved, what's the foils and follies. All these guys are really taking advantage of the lower cost. And they're not only using this equipment to build their own custom PC mods and projects, but some of them are also offering a service to you, the modder or builder out there that needs something laser cut or possibly 3D printed. And we'll get into that later. But what we're going to do is we're going to start off with Greg from the Modzu, Monkey Mods, and also the Smart Computer Store. And because Greg is the first person that I got to experience actually ordering a laser, and then we helped him bringing it to his shop last year. So, Greg, why don't you tell us about your laser machine and what kind of stuff you've been doing and your business?
Well, I bought a 60-watt eBay sold laser that was shipped out of China. I picked a larger one that had a slightly larger deck so that I could do larger panels like windows and so on. And it's actually been fairly trouble-free, which is surprising since it was an eBay laser. But expense-wise, ended up being around $3,200. It's 60 watts, and it'll, like I said, it'll do roughly 18 inches by 20 inches on the deck. And it has doors on both ends, so you can actually put material through it. So you could actually put conveyors on each end and just keep running material.
And how often are you using it already? Almost like a daily basis, weekly, or?
You know, the funny thing is that most of the stuff I do is just fun stuff. You know, it's a matter of learning curve, things like that. When I first got it, it was, you know, harder to figure out how many watts to use, what kind of feed speed. You know, you want your laser to go fast enough to get the job done fast, or fast enough so it doesn't melt the parts back together as it's cutting. You know, the laser itself is doing 0.1 millimeter width cut. But if you use too soft of plastic, it'll actually melt right back together, or polycarbonate will actually char. You know, there's a big learning curve. And there are schools that have sites that actually cover stuff like that and kind of help out, because they're obviously training the next industrial community and kids to be able to operate this stuff, because it is going to be a common thing.
Now, you had done an expansion to your shop to allow space for this laser machine. Other than that, like, what kind of stuff did you have to do? Did you have to change your electrical? And then what about ventilation?
Actually, the main thing is the ventilation, because like when you're cutting acrylic, you're actually vaporizing it, and those fumes have to be pushed outside. Originally, I had it here in the shop, and we actually vented it right out the front door. And I would just open the door when I cut it, throw the pipe out, and it would exhaust out there. But now, since then, we've had to move it into a further back room with venting through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably the only thing. I mean, it is liquid cooled, but you can have a closed loop system on that. So the main thing is really exhausting the fumes, especially if you're cutting rubber or something that, obviously you can't cut PVC because it causes chlorine gas and you kill everyone in the neighborhood.
And you're offering services to people, like what kind of stuff?
Well, generally I've been making the Mod Cube, which is basically a small, actually they're over there on the desk, a small cube that is fully cut acrylic, all custom cut. And the laser cuts the 1/4-inch material really nice, and so you can actually build whatever you want. This is a back panel, and it uses extruded aluminum to hold the ends together, and mostly that and back plates, things like that. You can do a back plate pretty easily for your GPU magnetic, so you don't have to actually screw it on, do that kind of things. And of course, like everyone, I'm doing cable combs like everyone else. It's one of those things. It's actually making some of the modding that you would do a little easier. In the old days, you had to take your steel case and get a hole cut saw and cut a hole in it. Here you make an acrylic panel with all, with the grills and all the holes built into it, and so it has made many of the modding things easier.
So you would say it's probably paid for itself already, or it's going to very soon.
Well, it's sure been entertaining. There was that learning curve, and the fact that I bought a Chinese laser cutter that the control panel was in Chinese, and trying to figure out how to switch it to English by using Google Translate and things like that was a chore. But once you learn how to do some of the things, like now I'm doing etching where you're actually not going full depth, not going full power, and you're going at a higher speed to etch like pictures onto acrylic, so when you backlight them, they're lit. So much more to learn on it, but it's definitely, I definitely enjoy it. For the price of a used car, I get to have lots of fun.
Yeah, exactly. So what we'll do is we're going to kind of swap back and forth between lasers and 3D printers, and we'll go to Callan next. In his world is more of the 3D printer stuff. He's got a 3D printing background before he made his own 3D printer at home. Callan, tell us about what you do with 3D printers and how you got into it.
Actually, I just got into it by seeing a news reel they did when MakerBot first started coming out, before they even were big at all, and started doing some research, finding out, what are these things, how do they work, and then just started messing around with stuff. I ripped apart regular household printers, old ones, to find stepper motors, and hacked together some of the control stuff, and just started by making an axis that went back and forth and that was controllable, and then just progressed from there. And now I have ones that I build that have dual extruders and can print dissolvable support material and stuff like that.
What I've noticed, and I haven't got a 3D printer yet, but for me and what I do, it's all about like prototyping, and a 3D printer seems to be the perfect tool for prototyping one-off parts for builds. Just because it takes so much time if you're going to CNC machine something. And I kind of casually look at the market and wonder, there's so many different brands now. It's like, any advice like where to go?
It's really exploded. You're right. There's so many brands, and it's so confusing. I have companies that I've worked with before that are always great, but really what you want to look for is a company that's been around for a while. And as far as been around for a while, that may be a year or 2 years or 3 years. Someone that didn't pop up yesterday. The big deal is having the support through their own forums, because you're going to have to lean on that community in order to figure out all the finicky little things of 3D printers. I mean, they're machines. They're not, it's not a magical thing like most people think, where you just, this is what I want, you push a button and out it pops. It's not quite that way. There's a lot of fine tuning and stuff. And like you said, it's great for prototyping. I actually have been running an experimental 1 nozzle, which is pretty large for a 3D printer, and it makes 3D printing parts like in half the amount of time it would ordinarily take me. So I'll run it through that just to see what the size of the model, the scale, everything, fine tune it, and then switch to a more detailed nozzle for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Is there a particular brand that like let's say an entry level 3D printer? And we've got another guest that may or may not show up still today. He was having some issues with Google Hangout. Big surprise there. Where Todd had bought like an entry level model. But if you want to get into like an entry level model, I don't know, say what, like $500, or is that too cheap, or do you want to spend more money than that, or what should we be looking for?
It depends really on what your usage is. I mean, most of the time people think, it's got to have the biggest print bed and, it's got to be able to print like 12 inches tall. It's like, I've found that the height really doesn't matter too much. I don't print things that are that tall ever. PrinterBot is a great company that I've worked back and forth with for a long time. They have the best customer support out of any business I've ever dealt with. And the owner is a maker himself. It's a U.S. company, and he's all just about getting it in your hands, having fun with it, and doing what you want to do with it. And they have a great forum of people that are always willing to help and give advice and, help troubleshoot. As well as mod, there's a whole community of guys out there that mod 3D printers, and that's what they do. And that's kind of what I did towards the later phases of my 3D print experience. I did a lot of modding my stuff and, adding task lights so you can see, adding the second extruder, setting up different feed systems and stuff like that, LCD screens, all kinds of stuff, just like we do for computers.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, right on time, we've got Todd joining us. And Todd, you had bought your first 3D printer. Was it last year or this year? Tell us about that. Or can he not hear us? Is your mic working, Todd? We'll have to come back to Todd. I know that I don't know what brand he bought, but he had bought his first 3D printer, and some of us on the mods who were watching him work on one of his projects, and he was going through the learning curve of figuring out, again, the nozzle and all that stuff. Are you familiar with the model that he got, Callan?
I know I've seen it before, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it was.
Oh.
I
Todd?
can't.
Is your audio working, Todd? I don't know if he can hear us. I don't think he can. Oh, you had there for a second. Well, he'll just keep us in suspense then. Okay, so I was just looking at your site here, and there's some really cool stuff. I noticed that you've done like a lot of fan grills.
Yeah.
That's like one of the things that you've done. And then you've done entire builds as well with your 3D printer. Or a lot of your case mods have been 3D printed.
Yeah, a lot of my builds will have some 3D printed parts. And a lot of the stuff I do is like brackets. I mean, bracket that you need that you just can't go out and buy. It's got some weird shape, or it's got to hold some weird angle or something. It's real easy to mock something up and just print it out, test it, and reprint what you want.
Mm-hmm. On the screen share, tell us about the model that's on the screen right now. Can you see it?
That's actually, the model originally was by PrinterBot, and it's called the Simple. And that was kind of my joke to them. I took their design of a simple printer that was made to be real small, entry-level, cheap, real tiny printer. And I took it and more than tripled the size of it. And that's what I call the Simple XL. And it'll actually print one of their simple printers in its print bed. So it's just, we had a lot of fun with stuff like that. And probably about 3 years ago when we did that one.
Mm-hmm. And what is this next one?
This next one is, I had an idea to CNC mill the aluminum blocks for all of the axis and stuff like that, and that's what this one started out. I got it all the way to flicking the switch and turning it on, but I had 3 other printers at the time, so we started converting it over to a desktop CNC just for real small stuff. And that's what I have now for my desktop CNC. It's actually going through some upgrades right now. And there's as the conversion moves forward.
Mm-hmm. And you do all this stuff like right in your office, it looks like.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of it. I'm actually building a shop right now, so we're in the midst of getting a lot more space and kind of separating stuff out, having, a paint area, a machine shop, and then, a prototyping area and assembly and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think when you're all set up with your shop that you're going to offer services to people or just keep
Yeah,
it?
yeah, I will. Right now I'm doing sponsored builds and builds for shows, stuff like that. Kind of taking a break from, custom orders and stuff like that until we get everything reset up. It takes some time. We got to wait till the spring to break ground just for weather and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's kind of nice to work without deadlines and people asking when is it done and that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah. Alex, who ordered a laser, he is going to be offering as a service. You're going to do stuff like etching, cut parts for people, Alex, with yours?
Well, that's one of the ideas. Also, hey everybody, I'm in my closet for the second week in a row. Yeah, that's one of the ideas, was doing custom parts for community members, etched, cut, that kind of stuff. But one of the main reasons why I went ahead with the purchase was because I wanted to experiment with building computer cases. Because I've done cooling part design and had experience with subtractive manufacturing, CNC mills and stuff. But I guess the thing is, I reached a point in designing cooling parts, water blocks and the pump impeller housings that everyone kind of knows me for. I reached a point where there weren't, well, while it's challenging to design cooling parts and it's very math heavy and you're doing fluid dynamics or rather CFD on the parts, and there's a lot of technical challenge there. You're still constrained by things like laws of physics, and so I found that tinkering with case design is actually a little more of a challenge for me because it's so open-ended. And there are so many different use cases you have to accommodate for and so many different parts you have to accommodate for. And so that's kind of what caused me to gravitate in that direction. It's sort of like the next thing I want to do.
So your focus right now is doing custom cases and possibly then retail them. And what I've always thought in regards of making a custom case is being able to flat box it so you can ship it overseas.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'd like to get working, essentially, is figure out how to package things as efficiently as possible. Because most users, they even if the assembly is like IKEA level assembly, here's some pictorial instructions and here's some simple pieces to just put together. I think that kind of has like the brownie mix effect. It's the you feel like you're building it yourself, and so you get a feeling of accomplishment out of that alone, in addition to building the computer. So it adds a little something extra. It's like when you go to the store and you buy a box of brownie mix, you're really not baking, but you feel like you are, because you broke a couple eggs and you dump some oil in the bowl, and damn it, you're cooking.
Yeah. It's and obviously when you're a smaller business and you're manufacturing a case here in the U.S. and you've got one piece of equipment making it, it's going to be at a somewhat premium price, but you're getting something that's truly unique. And I would imagine that since you're designing everything, you can develop a whole after sales market for like different accessories, different options and stuff like that in your store. So if somebody orders the basic case, they may want to have like a plate for a 360 radiator or a 240 radiator. So then it gives you this whole world of options to offer people.
Yeah, very true. And well, given that I'm purchasing a laser and it's coming from China, and I've dealt with Chinese companies before. This really isn't any different. Every time you do it, you feel like you're just throwing money into a black hole. But there are materials limitations if your only piece of equipment is a laser. You're limited to organic materials, acrylics, wood, leathers, that kind of stuff. You can get a little crazy, and use some weird materials. But for the most part, your standard wood, acrylic, Delrin, although not that well. Some people have had issues with the palm copolymers, so the homopolymers are probably a better bet there as far as not releasing things that are horrible and will kill you.
What I've got is the manufacturer setup that you ordered your machine from. Why did you choose this particular machine?
Well, that particular machine, mostly bed size. I want to be able to work from large sheet acrylic or large sheet materials, and that machine will absolutely do that. Because, well, you know what? There was a bit of a journey here. Last year, I was actually one of the original 30-day backers for the Glowforge product, which I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. It's basically a small desktop laser cutter that their kind of marketing is like a laser cutter for everyone sort of thing, which, that marketing angle has its positives and its negatives. I'm not really sure that it's the type of product that really should be in everyone's kitchen, as they tend to like market it. It's like, that's not the greatest idea. But anyway, and the time I spent on their community forums, which is actually a very supportive, positive place, open to discussion of lasers of all types, caused me to do a whole lot more research and really assess what my needs were going to be and what I was trying to do, and how much the dimensional limitations of their product would prevent me from doing things. And so that caused me to start researching all the Chinese lasers and the US lasers. And, as awesome as Trotec and Epilog are, they're incredibly expensive. And so I ended up choosing that particular Chinese manufacturer on the recommendation of quite a few other people I ran across who have their machines and like them very much. And also from a recommendation from the CEO of Glowforge, who's like, hey, okay, fine, this doesn't meet your needs. Go to these guys.
Yeah, that's a good endorsement. Now, what's the price of this model that we're looking at?
Depends on the options. With the options that I selected, which is 100-watt output and the autofocus feature, which I may or may not use because there's always the experimenting with, autofocus cutting and such. But came to about 4,300, which is really, really, really cheap. But you also have to realize that, that covers getting it to the port of LA. From there, I've got to cover, all of the customs fees, importation fees, broker fees, shipping to get it from the port of Los Angeles to my house. So that's going to add somewhere in the like $500 to $900 on top of everything else. And, then of course there's the element that you really have to keep in mind with all the Chinese lasers, which is, yeah, they're cheap, but you're making up the difference in cost with your time.
Yeah.
Because, you're going to have to tear it apart, make sure they did all the grounding correctly, because that could be an issue with some of the Chinese manufacturers. And if the internals of the machine aren't grounded correctly, that can be very bad for your health. And just making sure that they built it correctly. And then you're pretty much on your own as far as repairs and troubleshooting goes. You do get limited support from the Chinese companies. They'll try, but, ultimately you're still dealing with Chinese companies.
Yeah, so you're not going to see the same issue Greg did with his software being in all Chinese, or you don't know yet?
I've been told that won't be a problem. We'll have to wait and see.
And so, Greg, you said you had to use Google Translator in order to operate it.
Yes. I used Google Translate on my phone right over the panel and finally translated all of it to where it could switch it to English.
Alex and Greg, what software are you guys going to use or using to design stuff?
The Chinese machines, for the most part, all come with essentially software that's proprietary to the controller that they're using. And usually it's not that great. And you get like what RDWorks is one of the bigger ones that you end up with a lot. And there are, I forget what software comes with like the Litro controller, but so that's what you're going to have to dump things into to do your engraving and your cutting. The actual designing, however, you can do in pretty much anything that'll dump out a DXF file. So, if you want to use Fusion 360 or Onshape or AutoCAD or whatever you want to use, if you can kick a DX, yeah, Corel Draw would be a good one. You can dump stuff out of Illustrator. So you have a lot of options there. It's just you have to then port it into the software that came with the machine, which not the greatest. You know, you have to beat your head against the desk a few times before you get everything to work right. And that's an experience that hypothetically you wouldn't have with the U.S. produced lasers for the most part. And by that I mean like, you know, Epilog, Trotec, Universal, because they're using essentially a print driver plugin that allows a what you see is what you get. You know, you essentially hit print from Illustrator or Draw, which opens up a dialog box. You set, you know, all your cutter and grave parameters, and then you send the job out to the cutter.
Now, and the benefit of buying from China, whether it was through eBay or factory direct, is that you're going to save significantly more money than buying a U.S. marketed and retailed one, right, guys?
Right.
Like, what's the price difference? You'd see, like, what, $2,000, $3,000, or?
Well, it depends. It depends on capability. Like, for example, for the larger units, like what I picked up, and to an extent what Greg picked up, you know, there, as Greg was mentioning earlier, before we started, there are companies that buy units from China, go through them a bit, make sure they're working correctly, maybe change out controllers and software, and then sell them as, you know, U.S. supported models for, you know, a few thousand more to double the price of the Chinese ones. But the actual U.S., the main U.S. companies, again, I was mentioning like Epilog and Trotec and Universal, those machines, I mean, you're looking at the ballpark of like 20,000 plus for those. Those are really, really expensive.
Yeah, and they're giving you like a support plan so you can talk to somebody in the States, or even have a tech come out that's from the company and work on it if you don't want to deal with it. Where you guys are more DIY, you're like, okay, I'll figure this out on my own, like Greg has. Now, taking it to the next extreme DIY, we've got Jim here from Clockworks Industries, and he's actually building his laser cutter. Jim, tell us about this.
Well, I decided to go with a light object 100-watt CO2 laser cutter. It's about the same size as Alex. It's 1200 by 900, so 3 foot by 4 foot work area. And first, I started this all off about 2 years ago when I built my CNC router. And I technically didn't scratch build it, but I got somewhat of a kit from CNC router parts, and I was able to, what I ended up doing was going to 80/20 and sourcing my own extrusion, so it would be a little bit cheaper even. I think I saved a few hundred doing that. And I assembled that. I built my own 3D printer, so when I was researching laser cutters to make some production parts I have coming, I was, you know, I had originally bought one of these eBay lasers, and when they changed their terms on me, I just got really sketched out about it. I didn't know what could have happened. So I found this company, Light Object. They come, you know, well received from the community. I found them on CNC Zone, and they have everything you could want to buy for a DIY laser. You know, from the laser tube, water chiller, all the extrusion, all the motors, frame, everything. And they sell a laser the size of mine with the same wattage for about $9,500. And, you know, that'd show up in a crate, plug and play. And by building the kit, I ended up getting it for about $4,400. So I saved close to $5,000 by building it myself. So,
how many hours have you got into the assembly so far?
I've been going at it for probably like 4 hours a day for a couple weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
And like I had it all running, like I got it all mocked up and tested like fairly quickly. I would say within a few days I had it all set up. Now it's kind of like going back and making sure everything's laid out nice, so I don't have to, you know, like you got pulled up right there, the electronics. I just want to have all my wires nice and clean. I don't want to have have anything messy. I want to have it all labeled. You know, everything has a purpose inside of there. So you know, in case of a problem or an issue, I can easily go back, take out the wire that's faulty, or adjust and make adjustments, and everything's neat and dialed in. You know, like my CNC, I regret because I kind of was so excited to get that thing working. I had so many things waiting on the completion of it that I never went back and like tidied it all up. So I just kind of got it functional and let it go. But
yeah, I like how you've got the lift on it. That's pretty slick. So what was the biggest challenge other than just kind of figuring out everything? I mean, what is the big hurdle that you had to like figure out to get around a wall to fix something, or you weren't expecting to happen with it?
Well, the tricky thing about this company is this isn't a kit. I contacted their customer service and had them give me every part I need to build a laser. And they sent it all to me, and I have to go through the forums and figure out how to put it together. So
there's no instructions.
No instructions. That's how they save extra thousands of dollars by not You know, they don't assemble it as a kit with like nonstop. I mean, they have decent customer service. Their sales department's been really helpful in answering any questions I have when putting it together and everything. But you know, they kind of can't babysit you the whole way through the project process. You know, they offer it for, you know, I'm saving $5,000. I got to be able to figure it out myself. You know, so that's the biggest hurdle. And it was kind of like they got a lot of pictures in the forums. There's quite a bit of stuff on there, but there's no like, you know, black and white. Put this beam here. It's exactly 200 millimeters from here. It's just like, look at the pictures, eyeball it, make sure it's okay. And, you know, that was the trickiest part actually, was doing the frame. Like with the electronics and the motors, I'm very used to my 3D printer and my CNC and like, you know, tearing them down, rebuilding them, calibrating them and all that. So that part went together. Like there was only really one way to do it with that. The frame, you know, we only have 5 different pictures of different angles from the frame. And I had a friend of mine helping me build it. And yeah, it was just kind of like, all right, we'll see what happens when we put it together like this. But it took about a week or so working on it a few hours a day to get it all tidied up like that.
So yeah, that's cool that so a community was born from this, of people supporting one another. So that's nice. You can at least rely on, where do you go? Where's this community that you're talking to, these people that are helping you out?
Lightobject.com has their own forum. It's a user forum for people who are buying their machines and their parts. You can go there, make a forum post and ask questions. But the primary one is CNC Zone. And actually, Light Object has given me a discount because I'm doing a build log. So for each build log I do, I get $100 back. And when it hits 300 or 3,000 views per build log, I get $50 per
That's great.
log. So yeah, I'll end up getting about $500 back for doing build logs, which I do for all my work anyhow. So it's kind of cool deal there too.
Well, and it also, you could potentially support, like offer your services to support other people that build it. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like my last job, I was an electrical mechanical engineer, kind of like not so much a design portion, but more like helping the engineers get like the lead design engineers get their parts together and write procedures. So I wrote so many different work procedures for different machinery that I used to build. And I got the whole process down real well for documenting and basically creating work instructions for the assemblers to build machinery. So I'm going to kind of implement, I told them I would implement that into my work log. And like, hopefully going forward, if someone does buy the same kit that I bought, Light Object and the guys there will be able to forward them to my work log, and you know, you could pretty much build a machine without many questions needing to be asked.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that works so good. You're already you're already offering full-time services with your other shop equipment that is currently running.
Correct.
And what kind of stuff, like anybody that's watching that's in the PC building or modding, what kind of stuff are you doing as a service?
Right now, I got my 3D printer and CNC router working, and I basically been building anything I could possibly build with it. You got the page pulled up there. I've had anything from window mod installs to custom. Primarily, my whole thing started out with custom reservoirs. Even before I had my CNC, I built a custom reservoir for gray matter. I did that by hand with my router table, and ever since I built that, I had like one person after another asking me for custom reservoirs. So that's what kind of inspired me to get the whole business side going of it, because before I would finish a project, I had 1 to 2 projects, you know, in queue. So I figured I'd make something out of that. And yeah, it's kind of just, you know, snowballed from there. So primarily reservoirs, that's the most popular item that I'm asked to build, but also, you know, cutouts on panels. I've been able to manipulate my CNC router. It's really not made for cutting steel, but if you know, after getting used to the, you know, parameters on your machine, you can kind of get it to cut anything. It doesn't do it like, you know, very easily, but if you know how to manipulate it, you can get it to cut pretty much whatever you want. So I was able to do that next panel right there, and that was those are all steel panels. And the window mod, I think I cut the window with the Dremel, but then I offer this I call it the Pro Model window mod, where instead of using the U channel, I sandwich the window into the, you know, frame with trim. So I cut an acrylic trim and put a pocket on it. And then when I glue the trim to the window, it actually locks itself in place over the edge, so you don't have to glue it in or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
cool.
I started out with all the services, and now I'm kind of branching off into something a little more consistent by putting a store up on my website. And I got some parts that I have designs for, and
okay.
I'm gonna fill it out there.
And the URL for your store is clockworkindustries.com. And you've got the mod shop here, and this is the production parts that you're
those are what I'm making for some other people. Overkill PCs, Jason Moda contacted me to make these cable combs for him, so I'm making aluminum cable comb, and they're resold through Mainframe Customs. And David from Mainframe also had me making Corsair light bar inserts. So I redesigned the Corsair light bar inserts so no light gets out around the edges of them.
Mhm.
I added extra material, so we offer them in like 10 different colors or something like that too.
So investing in this larger laser cutter, you're looking at just more output. You can
Exactly, faster.
and have you considered designing your own cases as well, like Alex and Greg are?
I've had to bounce around a couple ideas about cases and trying to figure out. If I do something, I might go like with the MITX case or something like that, mini ITX. But mostly my designs right now are worked out for. I got some radiator grills coming, some custom reservoirs, some back plates, a couple other odds and ends things.
Yeah, that's cool. Todd, can we hear you now? Hopefully.
I hope so. Can you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
At least you didn't hear me swearing earlier.
Now, you got a 3D printer. Was it last fall? Right? You picked it up.
It's a little over a year ago, probably a year and a half ago that I picked it up.
Yeah, and this was something you had no prior experience. And what can you tell us about that? What is the model that you chose and why?
Well, now my phone's right. I'm on fire today. You know what? It's the government. Anyway, we'll just ignore them. They're not important right now. The model that I picked up was a Geetech, and that's G-E-E-E-E, the 3 E's. And it's a Prusa knockoff, basically, is all it is. But it's direct ship from China and build it yourself and plan for a couple of weeks of tuning afterwards when you get it all up and running. But for just and at the time I was bouncing the idea around, and there was around 400, and my son actually came to me and said, "I'll split the cost with you," and I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like within an hour, I had one picked, and I'm like, let's do this. So, I picked one.
Are you sure they didn't go out of business already? Their store isn't working.
Uh-oh. It's a good thing I just got some parts.
Geetech.com. Yeah, let's see here.
Geetech.
Yeah.
Could be out of business. I have no idea.
It's
okay.
companies, that's the way it works.
I bought spare parts, and half of the parts on the printer are printable anyways. So, and I literally have had to reprint some of the parts just for some that broke along the way. But it's been good. I mean, it's a good entry point for $200-300 to get me into it and just kind of expand what I can do on the modding side of things. It's been great.
On the screen share I'm doing, is that your model there, or is yours different? I'm trying to.
No, if you right below it on the right side, there's one with a little red bed.
Oh, okay.
Just right below it there. That's the bad boy.
Oh, cool. Callan, what do you think of Geetech? What do you know about him?
I've got some parts from them before off eBay. They sell under a bunch of different accounts, and it's just cheap knockoff Chinese stuff, but actually some of their stuff isn't bad, especially for the price. I have a main controller, a ramps board that I bought from them for like a tenth of the price you could get it from anybody else in the US, and it's worked good for the last year. I've used it off and on without any problem. So I mean, they're good stuff. It's just like they say with the lasers, you can get some of the stuff for real cheap, but you're going to have to spend 2 weeks ironing out all the kinks with it and everything.
What about
versus buying something they've already done that with?
Guys, what type of software do you use with the 3D printers?
I use a Repeater. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but that's what I've used. Yeah.
I use a
that's what I've
3D.
used forever. Yeah. There's a few different good ones out there.
Yeah, I use the same one for the actual printing itself. I use 123D Design for the actual model making.
Yeah, I use SketchUp for designing everything, and then just export it.
Mm-hmm.
Fusion 360 is one of the best, inexpensive modeling company or softwares out, I think, so far. They're basically like SolidWorks for a fraction of the cost.
Well, yeah, SketchUp's obviously free. Are those softwares basically free or cheap?
Fusion 360 is free for small business and students. I think it's $40 a month if you're not one of those two, and you also get like a 1 month free trial to start it up. But they don't background check. So if you're like a modder, you can call your business a modding business and sign up for the small business one and get it for free with no charge.
Well, it's also free for enthusiasts. So they have like a kind of a catch-all thing. It's enthusiasts, students, or small companies with revenue less than 100,000 a year. You can just sign up and you get the full thing for free. And then of course there's also Onshape as well, which is fairly comparable, web-based, so it's a little different approach. But that was being done by the original SolidWorks team. That also has some free accounts. But there were limitations to the free accounts with regard to storage that you don't run into with Fusion 360.
Fusion 360 is also cloud-based. So I've had clients, I told them to download Fusion, they draw their parts, share them to me through Fusion 360, and then the models appear in my online version of the software. Mm-hmm. So for sending files back and forth, communicating with clients, it's really, really helpful.
Is Fusion 360 AutoCAD?
Autodesk. Yes,
Autodesk.
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What we're looking at here is Todd's Eskimod 2.0. That this is pretty much the majority of it is 3D printed, right, Todd?
Oh yeah, the vast majority. It's just wrapped in acrylic, like a coat, basically. But the entire structure was printed in some aluminum tubing, and that was it. And even all the drive cages and stuff were just designed up and printed custom for the machine.
And when you guys when you look at an entry level 3D printer, obviously it takes a long time to print the parts. Todd, a rough estimate, how many hours of creating the parts for this Eskimod?
Ooh, that's probably 40 hours for the framework itself, and then the bits and pieces that are just kind of decorative and all that, probably another 30 hours of print time.
Mm-hmm. Would you consider getting a bigger 3D printer for future projects, or sticking with your G-Tech for the long run? Or
well, if I can talk the wife into thinking that I can make her a new car with with a bigger printer. She wants a car right now, so
okay.
So that's what we're negotiating at this point. But I mean, I'll stick with this for now until I want to really get into some better resolution and I can really justify the cost of getting something better. But this is doing everything I need it to do right now. It's the print resolution it leaves lines and ridges and there's cleanup to do, and that's fine. But if it ever got into anything where I needed to do something fancier, or the printers evolved enough where they had just features and this was kind of out of date, then I'll probably stick with this one for quite some time.
What price point are you looking at where you can have a real nice smooth resolution where you don't have to sand it at all? What price point? Are we talking like $1,000 right now?
I don't know. I haven't looked up.
Realistically, as far as I'm concerned, you're always going to have post-processing with FDM printers, which is what these are. You can get the resolution down to where it's hardly noticeable, but if you want a 3D printed part to not look like it came from a 3D printer, you're always going to have some post-processing. As far as a really good high-resolution printer with a big print base, you're looking anywhere from $1,200 to $1,600.
That's not bad. I mean, the price is really keeps dropping. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, it's a matter of time before, it's the next microwave, right, where everybody's got one in their home and they're just able to go on the web and grab stuff and print it. Like, I don't even bother buying knickknacks for the bathroom anymore. I just print off toothbrush holder and yeah, I can't print a cup because it's a little leaky, but otherwise, all that stuff, I'll print something custom. There's tons of things on Thingiverse, and you can just pull down something and you can all kinds of knickknacks around the house. I even fix my fridge with it.
it's great when DIYing other machines too, because you could use the printer to make accessories and mounts. I made this drag chain for wires on my 3D printer for the laser, mounting brackets for the motor drivers. I mean, it just comes in handy for any kind of application. I don't know. It's very nice for the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, insanely good for that stuff. I've printed cable combs probably 3 different times. I'm like, oh, what if I tried this design? And model it up, print it off, try it out, and see if it's a little better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a popular one just because they're so simple and they're popular. Greg, tell us about your mod cubes, and if somebody's interested in ordering one, and like, can they do some custom variations on them, or?
That's what I'm working on now is getting the list done of what you can do. You know, most of them I've been doing custom order where someone says exactly what they want inside it, and I'm making a side panel that's, you know, got the cutouts for their GPU or the size radiator they want to use. The standard mod cube is really a cube. It's ITX, has a 120 mil, 140 mil grill on the front. It fits a shorter GPU, but still, you know, like a 970, or I just put a 1060 in grams. You know, it's, but they'll be able to order whichever panels they want, you know. And so as soon as I get that up on the site, really what I've been working on now is the cable combs, because I want to, like he said, I want to perfect them. I want to, you know, the new ProFlex ones actually, virtually unbreakable. The stealth version of that, you can actually, you know, you don't have
What
to worry
is the
about it.
material toxic at all because it offers that ability, or?
No, it's a space age polymer plastic that does a good job. And like I said, I like them because they are unbreakable, but you know, you never know. It's a lot of people are making them out of acrylic, and like, you know, they tend to break. Fantech sent some extension cables with cable combs, and they were broke before they got here. They were broke during shipping. You know,
Yeah.
it is ridiculous. And you know, the only source is to make something flexible or something so hard like billet aluminum that you don't have that problem.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I've been working on now. That and the mod cubes are coming along. There'll be 4 designs. They are mostly ITX. You know, you'll have your ITX cube with a power supply in the basement. You know, this one is the back for the level 2, and it fits a full ATX power supply. You'd be able to order that in colors, obviously each panel in separate colors. You know, with whether you want side panels in green or whatever. And it's really easy to work on with the extrusion holding it together. You can actually pull all the side panels off and get your hands in there and actually be able to work on it. So
Here's a question that came from the chat, everybody that's watching, and thank you. We got a great crowd in the chat on the YouTube video channel. What's an exotic material that you guys now have this equipment that you've thought about? No one's really used this type of material to create products or mods or do some kind of really cool build. Exotic materials, guys. Any ideas?
Actually, a buddy of mine, once we got the laser up and running, he's going to start working with making fiberglass wraps. And we can use the laser to cut MDF, and you stretch the fiberglass out over the MDF, almost like a mold, and you can create any kind of fiberglass shape you want. And you can sand it, paint it, and give it an auto finish, basically, once you're done with that. So we're looking at making some custom fiberglass work.
For the computer realm, or like automotive or motorcycle stuff?
Pretty much for everything, but we were kind of pondering the idea of even like a shell for a case that we do out of fiberglass.
That'd be cool. Yeah. Anybody else? Any other exotic materials that you've thought of?
I tried using some press board, but it was crap. It was awful. Just some stuff like audio-visual gels for lighting, in coloring lighting and stuff inside the computer. That was kind of handy.
What about you, Callan? Have you done anything different with material-wise?
I've kind of lately been experimenting with vinyl and adding texture to it and embossing vinyl, actually making it somewhat three-dimensional and stuff like that. That's kind of what I've been playing around with as far as materials go. Not exotic materials, but different uses for common materials.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
It's not exactly exotic, but I've been working with some wood stuff, picking some mahogany and stuff like that. Uh, um, Stu, who's working on his fresh meat, needed some Dota grills and he wanted them out of mahogany. So the laser cut them really nice. It was actually a nice cutting job, and it leaves a little charred edge. And after you do the staining, it actually looks pretty nice. So I can see using some wood for some of that stuff. Some exotic woods, maybe some bird's eye maple or something like that.
Yeah, I've been watching the staff guys, Eel, Stu, Jesse. They talk a lot about keyboards and the key covers. This seems to be, it's a big topic with them, all about customizing your keyboard. And there's a couple of sites and communities out there. There's actually a couple companies that offer custom key combinations, different colors and stuff. So what you could do is, I would presume, is laser etch. Yeah, just like what Todd's holding up right there. Where'd you tell us a story on that, Todd?
The story on that is I got hooked on this thing of these mechanical keyboards, and then I found that you can change the keys out. So I started just Googling around all over the place, which is kind of what I do when I get obsessed over something. And then I started, where does it mass drop? I started finding different just sales for colored keys there. And so this one I ended up making to match the Eskimod, but I've got a box up on the shelf there that's full of custom keys and you can just pick up for, in some cases, like $20, you can get an entire set of 102 or whatever it is keys, and in a different color, and then you can just rearrange them as you want. And there's some good sites out there too where you can have a little it's a keyboard, and you can just pick through the colors and make different designs. Yeah, basically.
Couldn't you 3D print your keys?
Yeah, they're actually doing that.
I've tried it with mine. It doesn't have the resolution, but I would love to be able to.
Callan, go ahead.
Yeah, I've actually seen quite a few guys that have done it. I would assume probably with dual extruder it'd be easier with dissolvable support material. But yeah, I've seen quite a few. There's some on Thingiverse. There's some models on there of different keys you can download and print.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Drew, I know you followed that too, that trend that those guys are talking about a lot. And do you recall any sites that we could check out, our audience can see?
None of the sites for the custom stuff that they talk about, mostly just because my main obsession was with that old IBM Model M. So Unicomp was the website that I would go to for that PC keyboard, a clickykeyboard.com, one of those two. But no, they watching them discuss the different materials that they can find, like there was that marbleized acrylic.
Oh, acrylester.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it.
And he ended up finding somebody who had done several different like space bars and the different keys made out of that material. And that was looking really cool.
Yeah, this is something that Stu shared with us a couple weeks ago, and we were just blown away. And what it's somebody is molding like knife handles or pool cue handles from what they call acrylester. And I'll see if I can find the bars that this outfit sells. The materials, it just looks so cool.
And
let me see if I can find it.
While he's looking for that, the difficulty and resolution that they were just discussing, that little tiny cross, that's what you need to be able to mount your keys onto. And there's very little forgiveness in that at all. And especially if they're done right, because if you're a heavy keyer like I am, you're going to end up hitting that. And if it's not tight enough, those keys are going to go flying everywhere if you've got a decent spring on your board. And that's something that would drive me insane. So you got to make sure you've got a good, nice, tight fit.
Crazy glue.
There goes that customization thing, though. Of course, my problem too is where I'm a deep keyer. Any of these ones that when you've got that backlight, unless you have a good thick dye layer, I'm going to end up wearing through the lettering on all of my keys, and all of that extra light's going to end up coming through soon. So I'm going to have to start investigating my replacement options at some point.
Still pulling up the bars here.
Jeremy, wouldn't a double shot PBT be an option for that?
For the most part, yeah. It depends on the manufacturer that you're starting with. The keyboard that I'm using right now, it looks like when you flip it over, it's a nice thick double shot. Some of the custom key sets, though, that I've looked at, where it's like the depending on what your design is, a lot of times what I'm seeing now is they use a very thin layer of ink or dye instead of actually getting that good thick double shot. And so it depends on how much you're willing to pay for the most part.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I noticed when it was when I was looking into the keys a lot. The a double shot was kind of, it was depending upon the material, but some of them were just kind of painted over top, which wear down over time, and then the others were just kind of actually molded right in with kind of a laser etch for the lettering. So yeah, it costs a little more, but it'll last you longer.
So I'm sharing this stuff that's called acrylester, and props to Nubisaurus that found this in-lace acrylester. And what these are is they're called pen blanks for making custom pen handles. The block size is, I recall, 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch. Now, what can you possibly make from this material? Well, you could do custom case badges for one. If you CNC, that's one idea I had. But what I was going to try chasing down to see if it's possible to have these manufactured in bigger sheets so you can do more custom things with them. But just looking at these finishes are just, I mean, they're mind-blowing. They're psychedelic, just crazy. Never seen anything like this before. And I'd love to see the process and how they make this stuff, you know?
You could get them on a lathe and make case feet too.
Yes. Yep. You could do that as well. For example, if you had like a green and black swirl for NVIDIA or a red and black for AMD and stuff like that. So that's really cool. It's called acrylester, and do a Google search on it. And there's an outfit called Wood Turnings with a Z, and they make and sell these. And the price is not that bad. This is size is 3/4 inch by 5 inch, and they start $350 a piece from 1 to 9 quantity, and then they have a breakdown. But yeah, it's sort of small, so you're kind of limited. But I'm sure you guys out there can think of something cool to do with these. But in any case, we're just over the hour. So is there anything that any of you want to close out with in regards to what we talked about today?
Well, you're still on the screen share there. There we go, Bill. You had me on your screen share for a little bit. One of the things, discussing the dropping in prices and how much better the equipment is getting, I'm actually looking forward to the time where we're going to be able to see folks at home being able to do fine level multi-material inlays, being able to get that nice snug clean fit, so you've got the two surfaces that are mated together and it just looks like it's one piece that's been painted. Or on one of my, I can't remember what it was that I saw, but they were taking different kinds of acrylic and they were mating it together so well just by using friction fit that when you cast a light through it, it almost looked like it was the exact same cast piece, but you had that wonderful light play in between the two materials. And at first somebody was saying, oh, obviously they just use a solvent, they mated it together, and it's that solvent layer in between that's causing the interplay. It's that nice sharp line. And so the guy actually slotted it separate, so, live on video, so you could tell that it was two separate pieces. And I want to see that kind of thing now. It'll be a few years, I imagine, but that's going to be a great thing for home builders to be getting into.
I could see Jim doing something like that already. Haven't you done something like that? You've played around with light and illumination and inlays and stuff.
Yeah, I've done some different inlays. Actually, the radiator grill I just designed is almost like that. Not quite, but I CNC'd a base, and you could buy this base, and then I'd be laser cutting different inserts that drop in, and when the insert seats in, it flush fits all the way around the edge, so it looks like one solid piece. And then you have a border on your, and then we can do different laser cutouts for them and different two-tone colors. So then it's like one solid grill. And I've also
great.
done some of this with, I was making handheld electronic cigarettes, and I did some different inlays on those when I was taking those, but I haven't really messed with that too much lately. But the CNC really makes the inlays possible, because then you can do the pocket. I mean, with the laser, you would almost have to have two pieces sandwiched together, but with the CNC, I can pocket it. And my software, my CAM software, actually has an inlay feature where you take your design and you do the inlay, and it automatically generates a toolpath for the pocket and for the cutout. And then when you match them up, I mean, it all comes down to the accuracy of your machine, but you can make it fit pretty well within a couple thousandths accuracy. And you just tap it in with a mallet, and it looks like one solid piece.
Yeah, that's nice. What about you, Callan? Have you done anything like Drew's description, kind of playing around with inlays or lighting techniques?
I'm always playing around with all kinds of different stuff. I mean, whenever I do builds, I probably spend 25% of the time on stuff that I don't even end up using. I mean, I detail it all in my build logs, but I'm always experimenting with different lighting techniques, playing around with different materials. Sometimes I'll go off on a 2-day tangent on some piece that I never end up using, and I may use, 6 months from now on something. So I'm always kind of playing around with things. Very curious person, so.
Yeah, keep them busy modding.
The big thing for me lately has been the diffusion of light, especially with LEDs and stuff like that, and photographing LEDs without it totally destroying the shot, of your final picture, where the LED is actually visible by the camera. That's kind of what I've been playing with lately. More documenting and diffusing light than anything.
Yeah, oh sure. Alex, today, have any of these ideas fed into possibly future products from you?
Possibly.
He's being very secret about this.
Yeah, I am. And well, that and the thing that that I have kind of floating around in my head when we start talking about these manufacturing technologies becoming more available to people and becoming more affordable is the impact it's going to have on the modding market in general. I mean, because we've got lasers at 5,000 and under that have decent capabilities. You have crowdsourced or community source projects like Carvey and the Xcarve that are fairly capable, and that's fairly inexpensive as well. You have other machines on the horizon, like the guys who are doing the Wazer Kickstarter, I think it is, that small desktop water jet that's under 10,000. And the prices will just, eventually these things will keep going down. So what's it going to do to the market as a whole? I mean, at some point we're going to end up at a place where you need a fan. Well, you buy the motor hub and you print the fan and you're done.
Well, yeah, you have your 3D printer in the kitchen or in the workspace, and you just go online and download your drawing and print it out for whatever you need. And that's where, like being a mod store, and you guys too, you have to think about that in the future. Is maybe you'll have a section of your store of stuff that you've designed that people can download.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I've been thinking about that exact same thing, because it's gonna impact manufacturing in the long run. But like you say, maybe long term you end up having a 3D designer on staff who is just constantly cranking out new things. You're printing them out, you're trying them, and then you can put them on your store for people to buy. And then there's an option to say, well, I want it in aluminum instead of plastic, or I want it in this other material, so you can make it and ship it to me. But for case manufacturers and stuff like that, it's going to be a big deal too, because if you can, the profitability of replacement parts can't be very good, but if you can just put a printable replacement, hard drive rack on your support site and have people just print their own rather than shipping them something, way better.
Exactly. Yep, yeah. That's right. So in any case, that's it for this Hangout, and I'll let you guys close out individually by telling everybody where we can find you, your website, if you're on Twitter or Facebook, and we'll start with Greg.
You can find my stuff on monkeymods.com or smartcomputerstore.com. I also have an eBay site, an eBay store, Smart Computer Store on eBay, so you can find my stuff there.
All right, and then Callan?
Pretty much Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, you name it, I'm on it. It's on at Envious Mods. Other than that, I have build logs for current builds on all the major sites.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jim? Where do we find your stuff and you?
You can see it down under my name there, clockworkindustries.com. Also Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Stores opening up on my website with a bunch of products next week. I'm also releasing the final photos of Cypress 29 on the website. I'm going to do a promotional discount, 29% off everything that I offer. And yeah, it's coming up soon.
That sounds like a great deal. Alex, what about you?
You can find me around, forums, Twitter. I'm kind of on Facebook every now and then, but I mostly ignore it. Most of it at the moment, I don't have anything set up particularly for mods or case stuff. Like I mentioned before we went live, I'm the kind of person who, kind of the same way with PTS. I sit and I scheme and I get all the little pieces in place. I get the products done, and then I don't know where I start.
You drop it. You drop it on
yeah,
us.
Yeah,
yep.
That's kind of how I do things.
Yep. Todd, where can we find you? Oh, no.
No.
Lost your audio, man. Whatever you did, you did.
Oh,
something.
man.
There
Am
you
I
go.
back?
Okay.
So Crepadoodle on Twitter or Instagram are the places to track me down. But I'm between computer mods right now, but I'm playing with model prop making. So little Boba
that's
Fett
like
helmet.
What Darth Beavis was doing in the last Hangout.
Together, yeah.
3D printing a Stormtrooper helmet or something.
This is actually foam fabrication. But
oh, wow.
It's kind of learning some of the some different fabrication techniques from
cosplay,
from other industries. Yeah, cosplay and stuff like that. So it's got some 3D printing on there too. But
that's
just
cool.
Playing around with some different things.
All right. And I'll just make a note that next weekend, Droog and I are going to take it off, but we'll be back the following weekend, and we're going to do Open Hangout 2.0. Some of you have asked for us to do another Open Hangout where we just invite everybody that wants to join us and talk about whatever. And we actually got that crazy Modzu spin a wheel topic thing, Droog. We could try it out. We'll leave that a secret until we do it. So, but everybody that joined us today, thanks for taking the time, and I wish you guys great luck with your endeavors and your projects and your businesses. And Droog, you can go ahead and close us out.
Well, like everyone else was doing, you can find us on pretty much everything except for Tumblr. We don't have anything there yet, but we're the Mod Zoo. Any place that we can get that name registered, we have. And basically, if you have any ideas, suggestions, recommendations, pop on over to our forum, go to modzoo.com, and you can start a thread up there and tell us what you want to see on upcoming episodes, or if you want us to follow back through on something we've discussed in the past that you think we could have done better on. That would be, whatever. We're willing to get backtrack if we need to. in the future, you know, of course, we're always going to be looking for new guest ideas, for new topic recommendations, and all that good stuff. So just let us know. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What should we fix? Whatever. Now, my usual thing for you guys is you've got something out there that's really irritating you. It's going to be a computer case or a laptop, or you know, maybe you got a bottle like this, it needs a new paint job or whatever. You just get out there, you find that one thing that's really irritating you, cut it up, fix it, make it yours. Okay, just go out and mod something, would you? Have a good one.